Planning a trip to Iceland? Join me as I explore the best spots, hidden gems, and practical tips for planning this adventure. From the stunning landscapes to Icelandic cuisine, everything in between, I've got everything you need to know. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving into a month-long exploration of Iceland. This trip is packed with diverse experiences, from the vibrant city life of Reykjavik to the stunning natural beauty of the Golden Circle, the dramatic landscapes of the south coast, and the charming towns of the East Fjords. Whether you're into hiking, whale watching, or just soaking in a mineral hot spring, there's something for everyone. In this video, I am covering a longer period of time, so I'm going to go through each week in detail. If you're interested in a specific region, you could just sort of jump to that chapter. I want you to stay for the whole thing, but I'm going to give you a quick overview, and so you know what we're going to cover. Week 1 is going to be all about the capital city of Reykjavik and the Golden Circle route. So we will cover everything from the Þingvellir. All right, let me just get this out of the way. I have practiced, I've watched videos, I am butchering the language. I mean no disrespect. I'm gonna put everything in writing, put it in the description so you know what the heck I'm talking about. But anyways, in that first week, we're gonna explore the national park, the Geysir Geothermal Area, and the majestic Gullfoss Waterfall. Week 2 is going to be all about the south coast and Jökulsárlón. This is all about gorgeous waterfalls, black sand beaches, and stunning glacier lagoons. Week 3 will be the East Fjords and Akureyri, which happens to be Iceland's second largest city, and this is known for its beautiful botanical garden and the nature baths. The final week will be the Snæfellsnes, so sorry, Peninsula and the Westfjords. That area, the Snæfellsnes Peninsula, is kind of considered Iceland in miniature because it has so many diverse landscapes. And then we move into the remote and rugged Westfjords. And this has some of the country's most spectacular scenery. All right, so that is our month at a glance. Before we go any further, let's talk a little bit about visas. This trip is going to be a month-long adventure. If you are looking for something that's even longer than that and there's enough here to keep you busy, you are going to need a Schengen visa. So Iceland is part of the European Union, the 26 countries that are in the Schengen, which I've done videos on it before and I still don't know why it's called that. Anyways, if you're planning on staying more than 30 days, you'll need that. And that visa allows you to stay up to 90 days within a 180-day period. You'll have to go online. You're going to need your usual, right? The passport, accommodations, travel insurance, the whole thing. Since I'm focusing on a month-long trip, I'm not going to go too much detail. Put the website here, and you can go and get some other information if you had the means to stay longer. For our 30-day trip, most visitors, US and other countries, you don't need a visa. You can enter without any special permits. So perfect for our trip. The other thing to cover is some essential, like maybe some housekeeping pieces. First up, let's talk about the best months to travel. What works for me may not work for you, but I'm going to say, especially for the things that I'm talking about that I want to see, the ideal time to visit is going to be late May to early September. During these months, you're going to experience the mild weather, longer daylight hours. So this is going to be perfect for exploring. Late May into June, you're looking at temperatures from like about 40 to 55 degrees, which to me is like my winters because I live on the West Coast, but it sounds blissful right now. July and August are the warmest months. You're looking at 50 all the way up to 60 and maybe even a little bit warmer. Then it starts cooling off again, but not too bad. Early September, you're going to see temperatures 45 to 55. So it's going to be the best time for the midnight sun, outdoor activities without the hassle of some extreme weather that Iceland definitely experiences. When it comes to getting around, this is not, maybe there's some parts in Reykjavik, but for the most part, you're going to need a car. And for this trip, I'm going to recommend renting a 4x4 vehicle. So that type of vehicle is going to give you the flexibility to access all of the areas in Iceland and some of those more remote, truly hidden gems, because you just cannot get there by a regular car or certainly not public transportation. You are looking at spending 50 to about $100 a month, I wish, a day on that rental. It's going to vary depending on which rental company you go with, the season, and I know that's pricey, but again, we're talking about one of those once-in-a-lifetime kind of trips. And having that vehicle is going to allow you to explore at your own pace and really get into some areas that you couldn't get to otherwise. Travel times, if you're flying from New York, really not bad at all. It's about 4 to 5 hours, and they have a direct flight, so that's fantastic. If you're coming from the West Coast, like I am, you're looking at a layover somewhere. So you're looking more like 10 to 14 hours with that layover accounted for. If it were up to me, since I love New York, I would plan like a little overnight stay in New York, enjoy that, and then do the direct flight. But anyways, the other thing is time differences. I mean, like Iceland's up there. So it is 4 to 5 hours, depending on the time of year, ahead of New York, which makes it 7 or 8 ahead of like Los Angeles. So you could experience some jet lag. It's not too big of a deal, but something to kind of keep in mind. And you might want to account for that in the first couple of days. All right, so milder weather, longer daylight hours, a reliable 4x4. We're all set for our adventure. Let's get into this itinerary and start. So like I said, week 1 is all about Reykjavik, the capital city, and the Golden Circle. So I'm just going to kind of go over the week, but roughly a day-by-day itinerary. When you first arrive, you're going to be in the heart of the city, getting settled, might have some jet lag. So this is going to be all about exploring this capital city. I would say the first thing to do is go to the church. I'm going to attempt it. Here we go. Hallgrímskirkja. This church is about one of the tallest buildings in Reykjavik at a little over 200 feet. So you can take an elevator, there's a little observation deck, and you can go up there, and then you get a nice panoramic view, sort of get your bearings of where you are. Another area to go to is Harpa. This is a concert hall on the waterfront. I mean, basically anything along the waterfront. There is just gorgeous architecture. There's going to be exhibits, probably shows at the concert hall. But just taking a walk along the waterfront, maybe see the Sun Voyager, the sculpture, and try some fresh fish. If you're in Iceland, you gotta try some fresh fish. And plan on staying right there in Reykjavik. Hotels and guest houses are going to range anywhere from $150 to $300. It's pricey. Not going to sugarcoat it. That's what we're looking at. The guest houses are usually a little less expensive, so you can do some hunting around. Some more exploration in Reykjavik, the National Museum of Iceland, I highly recommend, because again, the reason we're doing this, right, is to experience the history, learn a little bit about the culture. There is a Reykjavik Art Museum, if you're into that. There is a vibrant downtown scene, and some snacks to try is the skyr, which is, I don't know, it's kind of like an Icelandic yogurt, and the pjölsur is kind of like a Icelandic hot dog. It's street food, but you know, things you got to try, and definitely nothing I've tried before. Now we're ready to venture out. We've got our jet lag out of the way, and we're still in that first week. About 45 minutes outside of Reykjavik is the Þingvellir National Park. So you've got about a 45-minute drive, and then in the park, you can explore the Rift Valley, where the North American and the Eurasian tectonic plates meet. Super cool. Walk around the historical site of Iceland's ancient parliament. And then there's another waterfall within the park to explore and return to Reykjavik. The next day, maybe the Geysir Geothermal Area and the Gullfoss Waterfall. This is about an hour drive from the park. So it's just, that's why you need so much time, because there is a lot of driving to get to all of these different things to see. But again, when are you going to be this close to any of it? So you want to kind of hang out and see the geyser erupt. And then for the rest of the week, you just want to enjoy the city of Reykjavik, and maybe one more trip. This is only about 45 minutes, less than an hour, to the Blue Lagoon. You can spend the whole morning just in the warm, mineral-rich waters and enjoying the famous geothermal spas. As far as budget, it's a wide range. But when you think about, are you going to eat street food and shop at grocery stores? Or are you going to be eating in restaurants? What kind of vehicle? Where did you get it? Your amenities? I mean, all those things. But you can plan about $1,500 to $2,500 for a single week. But it gives you an idea of what you want to plan and all of the attractions that we talked about. All right, so that wraps up first week. Basically, this is capital city of Reykjavik and the natural wonders of what they call the Golden Circle route. So week 2, this is the south coast of Iceland and Jökulsárlón. And this is all about breathtaking landscapes, natural wonders. So let's dive into an itinerary. You have about a 2-hour drive to go from Reykjavik to Seljalandsfoss. Again, I'm writing things down. And the Skógafoss Waterfalls. So you're probably going to want to stay in the area of Vik. And this is a cute little village. You can spend all your time there. But this will give you a chance to go to Seljalandsfoss. This is a gorgeous waterfall. You can even kind of like walk behind it and spend your time there and explore. And then there's a little short drive to get to Skógafoss. This is another magnificent waterfall. So like I said, week 2 is kind of all about these breathtaking waterfalls. This is the Instagram week, right? Like every picture you take, you could just post on your Instagram. There are stairs to go to the top of that waterfall, and there's just a gorgeous view. And then you'll finish your drive at Vik, which is a charming village on that south coast. And that's a place to kind of find some accommodations and dining at a local restaurant. We're going to be looking at maybe $100, a little cheaper, to $200, depending on, again, a guest house or a hotel. For the rest of the week, it's exploring. So one of the things I want to talk about is the black sand beach. There's a couple. I'm not going to attempt to even pronounce them. They just have way too many letters in them. But it's going to be on the screen and in the description. And the plane wreck. The Sólheimasandur plane wreck. You can actually drive up and then park. There's designated parking, but it's like a 45-minute walk, which isn't terrible because the weather is gorgeous and seeing everything is fine. But then you get to the wreckage site. So this plane wreckage from 1973, it's kind of eerie, but it is super cool, and it's still there. I don't think they have any reason to remove it, and the crew survived, so it's not as morbid as maybe other plane wreckages. Anyways, and then exploring the village of Vik. They have a little local church, stunning coastal views, and for here I would say maybe try the seafood soup. Then from there you have about a 2.5-hour drive to the Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon. This is filled with icebergs. It doesn't matter what time of year. And you might see some seals. You can take a boat tour out in the lagoon and really get up close to the icebergs. So talk about an unforgettable experience. And then you can just drive to Höfnin and check in there. Höfnin, little coastal area. This is known for lobster. Again, told you it's going to be heavy on the seafood. And again, you're looking at that $100 to $200 price point. The next day, we're kind of midweek now, you want to explore Höfn and the surroundings. This is a little charming fishing town. So there is a museum if you really want to get into local history and culture. I think that stuff's kind of cool. And then walk along the coast, and you're going to enjoy views of Vatnsjökull. Really messed that one up. I will say Europe's largest glacier. Super breathtaking. I don't know. There are no words. There is this traditional meal to try. It's Icelandic rye bread, and they put butter or smoked fish. So another thing to try. And again, the name of it, I'm writing it down. All right, so we're returning to Vik. So that 2.5-hour drive we had early in the week, we have it coming back. And some stops along the way are another glacial lagoon and the natural reserve. Really, the drive is part of the experience because there's a view everywhere along the route. So it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm stuck in a car. So we're gonna finish up at Dworley. I don't know. The promontory is known for incredible views, bird watching, and if you're lucky, you get to see the puffins, super cute. And you can take a hike to the glacier. And there's even guided walks of the glacier. So if you're feeling adventure, that's a really good way to kind of get a feel for it. And then at the end of the week, you're going to go back to Reykjavik, which is another 2-hour drive. But again, you're going to break it up because there's so many little places to stop. I'm only kind of hitting the highlights to give you an idea. This week, maybe a little cheaper depending on where you stay in guest houses. The car doesn't really change. And depending on how many foods you want to try in restaurants versus street foods and shopping at the markets. But again, maybe $1,200 up to $2,000 for this week of adventures. That's going to include your accommodations, your food, entry fees, any kind of attractions, and the transportation we talked about. All right, so let's get into it. So now we are going east. These are the East Fjords, and then Akureyri. So from the village of Vik to drive to Eygilstor, this is a 6-hour drive. This one's long, and I would say break it up, along, and like I said, there's views everywhere. This is a very scenic drive. You're gonna pass lots of stunning landscapes. You pass through the south coast and head to the East Fjords. You're gonna stop in the town of Hafnen. This is a good place to have lunch, stretch your legs, and it's like everywhere else, very scenic. And I would say maybe a guest house in Eygilstor. And this gets a little less expensive if you stay in the guest house. So now we're talking 80, but we can get all the way up to a couple $100 a night. We want to visit the Lagerfloft Lake. You can take a walk in the surrounding forest areas. There is a local legend about a lake monster. I think it's kind of competing with Loch Ness. And then there is a cultural center, and there's also the nearby Gullfoss Waterfalls, and this is one of Iceland's tallest waterfalls. So no shortage of waterfalls, but this one is one of the tallest. I would say for food, you might want to try a local lamb dish, which is another staple Icelandic cuisine, and stay at a guest house. Then we can take a scenic drive through the East Fjords. We're looking at 2 to 3 hours, depending on where we're stopping. You're going to stop in the village of Seyðisfjörður. It's written down. This is really known for colorful houses, a vibrant art scene, so it's perfect to explore, have lunch, and then we'll finish up in Akureyri. This is the largest town in North Iceland. So plenty of accommodation choices here. And again, 80 to 200. So you're further out, gets a little less expensive. They have an amazing botanical garden here. So definitely something you want to experience. And it has the namesake of being the northernmost botanical garden in the world. There's little streets, charming local shops, all that to explore in the town. And there is an iconic church. And so when you're dining, I would say try some local pastries, the Gullfoss Waterfall, and the nature baths. This is about an hour drive. You're going to want to spend some time walking around and taking in the views here. The geothermal baths are a perfect place to relax, soak in the warm water, and you can just enjoy the stunning surroundings, because we're kind of travel heavy in this entire thing, so you need to take some time where you're just chilling out, and what better place to do it than a geothermal bath. All right, from there we're going to explore Mývatn and the surroundings. Like I said, maybe about an hour outside of Akureyri. There's a lot of unique geological features here, the geothermal areas, and the lava formations. So there's even the cave, which is, it's just a small lava cave with a geothermal hot spring inside. So as we come to the end of our third week, you might want to just lazy around in Akureyri. There's plenty of little spots that you can explore and just have some time at a cafe. Very cool. So let's get into our final week. And here we are going to the stunning Snæfellsnes Peninsula and the remote beauty of the Westfjords. So you do have a drive. It's not too bad. We're breaking it up a little bit. So to go from Akureyri to Snæfellsnes, it's about 4 hours. You probably are going to use that as your home base for this week as you move into northern Iceland. And again, there's a very charming village and you can explore the town, have lunch at a local cafe. Guest houses here are very similar to the east, with guest houses being about 80 to all the way up to 200, depending on the amenities you're looking for. We're going to start our week off at the Snæfellsnes National Park. This is home to the famous volcano and glacier. You can hike the trails and enjoy some stunning views, and then visit the black sand beach of insert name here. There's some nearby rock formations. Great spot for, the whole thing is great for photography, but some of these are just, especially the black sand. And the coastal cliffs and rock formations are just absolutely spectacular. You can stop by the Gullfoss mountain. This happens to be one of the most photographed spots in Iceland, I found when I was doing my research. As we get to midweek, make a drive to the Westfjords. And this is much more remote, but you get to see all of Iceland by doing this. This is much more rugged. Guest houses in the area of Westfjord, and the prices are still kind of in that 80 all the way up to about 200, but much more reasonable. The Tjörnin Waterfall and the surroundings. This is considered one of the most beautiful waterfalls. Again, I don't know who's making these decisions because they're all absolutely spectacular, but you're going to want to spend some time exploring. You might want to try some local dairy products and fresh seafood for dinner. And then you're going to go to the Lattraberg cliffs and do some bird watching. So the westernmost point of Iceland is home to a large population of seabirds, including the puffins. So cute. So you want to spend some time just hanging out and doing some bird watching. Towards the end of the week, we're going to return all the way back to Reykjavik. So in total, that's going to be about that 6-hour drive. Again, it's beautiful along the way, but you're going to check back into Reykjavik to get ready to fly out. So that's week 4. Rugged beauties of the Snæfellsnes Peninsula to the remote splendor of the Westfjords. Incredible experiences. I hope you've enjoyed this series of exploring Iceland. If you found any of this helpful, would you please consider subscribing? I'd appreciate it. All right, so this one has run a little long. I wasn't quite sure how to shorten it, but there's just so many aspects. If I get all the way to Iceland, I want to see it all. But as always, I do want to talk about what I see as pros in choosing a trip like this and some possible cons or drawbacks. First of all, I mean, it goes without saying, this is a place of stunning natural beauty, diverse landscapes. There is just a wide range of breathtaking sceneries, from the waterfalls, the black sand beaches, the glaciers, the geothermal areas. There is something unique here. Each thing is something I haven't really experienced before. So this is an absolute paradise if you're a nature lover, photographer. It's absolutely breathtaking. There's also a rich cultural history, and the locals are really friendly. So these are all pros. Iceland has a really fascinating history, and I didn't really know everything until I started looking into planning the trip. So the locals are very warm, welcoming, ready to share stories about their culture and history. So that is definitely a pro. And like I said before, you're going to have some unique experiences, like glacier hikes. When else would you ever do that? Or the geothermal bath. So whether it is into hiking or soaking in the Blue Lagoon, you're going to have an experience that you have probably not had before. All right, cons or potential drawbacks. It's expensive. There is a high cost on accommodations and food. Now, like I said, the further you get from Reykjavik, the more affordable it seems to become. If you go grocery shopping and rely on street food, It's more affordable, but overall, this is not your cheap vacation. And so you have to plan for that. So again, I don't know that that is a con as much as a potential drawback, because it's not something that we can all do without a lot of planning. So I think the experience will be worth the cost. So there is the value. The unpredictable weather. So Iceland is all about extremes. And even in the months that I'm talking about, May to September, you can still have some weather changes. If you're thinking about any other time of year, really do your homework, because there is some unpredictable and extreme weather. Again, not necessarily a con, but something to plan for. I've mentioned it several times throughout as we talked about different itineraries, but there is a lot of driving. Some of these things are far apart, and the places in between are remote. I think that is spectacular and quite an experience, but it is something to consider. I think you will be entertained by the landscape and the views, but it can be tiring. If you're not a person who's good on long distance driving, this is something to consider. It might be just do week 1 where you're really in Reykjavik and maybe the Golden Circle, because you'll see a lot doing that. Overall, that's what I see in terms of possible pros, cons. How about you? Have you been to Iceland? What did I miss? I know I didn't talk about the Aurora Borealis, because the Northern Lights are typically October to March, but I don't think I could do winter driving. But what do you think? I want to know and hear about it in the comments. As always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. See you next time.